Today's World Adoption Day. We are observing this year's celebration under the theme Changing the Mindset and Promoting Healthy Relationships. Welcome to another informative and exciting Thursday edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have the news and more after these messages. Stay with us.
Every evening when Amanda come home from school, she make it her point of duty to go look for Miss Maisie. She bring her food, comb her hair, and tidy up the house for the old lady. That girl with name Amanda, you see, is a good picnic, but I gonna be great in a society when she get big.
Why wait? Acknowledge the good work one is doing right now. If you or someone you know has done something exceptional, big or small, for an individual, the family, community, or country, they can be featured as a JIS Young Achiever. Nominees should be a Jamaican citizen between the ages of 15 and 29 years old, have done something admirable, acts of service for an individual, their family, community, or the country. Submit a video explaining why the nominee is worthy of recognition, and we may just spotlight them in Jamaica Magazine. The video should be between 1 to 1.5 minutes in duration. Send your video submissions no later than Friday, November 10, 2023 by emailing them to smccoy@jis.gov.jm. Be sure to include a brief bio of the nominee and the contact information for the individual making the nomination. JIS Young Achievers Spotlight, shining the light on those who stand out.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, November 9, 2023. The National Water Commission, NWC, has received 30 new vehicles at a cost of $200 million to boost its operation island-wide. The NWC currently has a growing customer base of over 450,000 accounts. Minister with responsibility for water, Senator Matthew Samuda, says the 30 new Isuzu pickup vans are intended to help modernize the Commission's aging fleet. The NWC is implementing a phased vehicle replacement policy to improve its mobility and responsiveness, in addition to reducing operating costs for vehicle maintenance.
We have committed to ensure that the National Water Commission has the equipment it needs, has the skill sets it needs, but we know that with skill sets you require the appropriate tools.
Senator Samuda says 8 additional water trucks are in procurement as an emergency requirement for NWC to be able to respond to periods of drought.
We are investing in serving you at the level that you deserve to be served.
The new vehicles, which were received at the NWC's Morosco Road complex on Wednesday, are being branded before being deployed across the island. The 6 new compressed natural gas CNG buses recently received by the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, will go into operation next week, Wednesday. The buses, each with a seating capacity of 50 persons and space for 20 standing passengers, arrived in the island on November 1. They'll be placed on Route 3, Christian Garden to City via Waterford, and Route 3A, Christian Gardens to Halfway Tree via Waterford. Buses will also be placed on the Greater Portmore routes. Managing Director of the JUTC, Paul Abrahams, says the new units will bolster the service provided to commuters, adding that they are also environmentally friendly. Compressed natural gas reduces harmful vehicular gas emissions like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and other suspended particles. The JUTC is expecting 14 additional buses in December. The Senate has passed the Copyright Amendment No. 2 Act 2023. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Aubin Hill, piloted amendments to the act in the upper house. He says these are necessary as regulations to accompany the legislation are not yet in place. The amendments will allow for the extension of a transitional period for the operation of unregistered licensing bodies, referred to as Collective Management Organizations, CMOs. These entities include the Jamaican Copyright Licensing Agency, JAMCOPY, Jamaica Association of Composers, Authors and Publishers, JACAP, and Jamaica Music Society, JAMMS.
The bill is being amended to 1. clarify the transitional provisions for the operation of unregistered organizations while no regulations prescribing the form, manner, and fees required for an application for a certificate of registration are in force.
Minister Hill says the legislation was also amended to provide protection from liability for persons who from July 30, 2015 acted pursuant to Section 154 of the Act. The amendments are also intended to remove any uncertainty in relation to the validity of the actions taken by the CMOs of the various licensing entities since 2015.
This allows for a licensing body operating before the date of coming into operation of the Act to be required to satisfy the requirements for registration under Section 87A and any regulations in relation thereto within 6 months from the date or such longer period as the Minister, after consultation with the Executive Director, may by order prescribe.
The Copyright Act was amended in 2015 and the new Section 87A included for the regularization of the activities of all licensing bodies by requiring their registration with the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, JIPO. Minister of Finance and the Public Service Dr. Nigel Clarke says Jamaica is well positioned to incorporate considerations of climate change into its financial sector and fiscal policies. Dr. Clarke believes the country must pay attention to the fact that it's operating in an era where climate change is a reality and temperature rise is real.
We have a national adaptation plan that is underway to being finalized, and the central bank is incorporating or collaborating with multilateral institutions to find the best way to incorporate climate change considerations in disclosure requirements for financial institutions and in finding ways to stress test according to climate change criteria. The government has pioneered a multi-layered approach to address the fiscal risks that are brought on by natural disaster.
The finance minister says the October 30 tremor brought home the need to make sure the country doesn't wait for a disaster to start planning how to finance emergency costs.
What we want to do in our disaster framework is to have financial resources or financial products that give the government the capacity to respond to the emergency costs of natural disaster. And Jamaica is pioneering that in the region, indeed in the world, by having not one product or two products, but a suite of products that can increase the capacity of the government.
And finally, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has reached 50% of its targeted enrollment figure of 30,000 persons for the government's social pension program. The program officially came on stream in 2021. It is geared towards Jamaican citizens 75 years and older who are not currently in receipt of a pension or any other retirement, old age or disability benefit or regular income. Persons should also not be living in a government institutionalized care facility. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Colette Roberts-Risden, gave an update on its progress during a recent JIS think tank.
The effort to find persons to get them on the program still continues, and we have been working with a number of community groups, MPs, councillors, and so forth, to identify our senior citizens that are in need of the program and not able to benefit.
Mrs. Roberts-Risden says the ministry is also in the process of reviewing the program with the aim of refining the process of verification for eligible applicants.
We are also in the process of reviewing some of the elements for that program. So the main criteria for that program, two main criteria, is age and no source of income. And because of that, the program has been very stringent on age.
The Permanent Secretary says the ministry has been working closely with the Registrar General's Department, RGD, to get more persons verifying their identity and their age so they can be included in the program. To register for this benefit, persons may visit the parish offices of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security island-wide. They will be required to complete a social pension application form accompanied by their taxpayer registration number, TRN, and proof of age in the form of a birth certificate or a valid passport. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Looking to expand your family? Why not consider adoption? Find out how the Child Protection and Family Services Agency can facilitate this dream.
The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, has taken steps to make the adoption process much easier. Joining me is Adoption Coordinator, Mrs. Maxine Bugelo, who will be giving us some information about the changes made. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Bugelo.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to go straight into it. What are the changes made?
Okay, before 2016, we had a two-tier system. First, applicants were asked to complete a pre-adoption form and then submit that to us. Now, that would normally take some time. So we reviewed the system and said that it would be best if maybe we erase that part of the process. So now what applicants have to do is that they go straight to our website and where they will find the adoption forms. The forms include the application form, the medical form, one for the child and the applicants, and the guidelines which outline all the information and all the required documents that need to be submitted with the application form.
Awesome. And what are the required documents?
The required documents are the birth certificates, marriage certificates if they are married, job letters and income statements, references from persons who know them, not a family member. And the references should not necessarily speak only to the person being a nice or a good person, but it should speak to how would they care for a child. That should be included, their capacity to care for a child. If the child is in school, we would need a child's last school report as well.
And when all of that is completed, what's the next step?
The next step would be submit all of those to the CPFSA. When it is here now, we would review to ensure that all documents are here. Now, if all the information is there, the application is reviewed, given a number, and assigned to a caseworker. And a letter would be sent to the applicant informing them of this and who the person is. Once the caseworker gets that application, that caseworker would now start to prepare appointments to interview both the applicants, the child, and whosoever, the birth parents, because the birth parents are also very important in the process.
And what if there are no birth parents?
Well, if there are no birth parents, we would have had death certificates for the parents if they have died. If they are nowhere around or cannot be located, there are avenues that we would have to take internally to ensure that we try our best to find them.
And once that's completed, what's next?
Once that is completed, the officers then would have to do a comprehensive report. And that report would have to be compiled and then submitted to the adoption board, because the adoption board is the only agency in Jamaica that can approve adoption at that level. So after the approval, it is submitted to the adoption board and approval is given, then it is now preparation for court. Because court is where it is finalized legally.
How long does that process usually last?
The entire process? We are at now 3 to 6 months, depending on if there are no challenges.
And once you get to court, then?
Once we get to court, court is held depending on the availability by the court. Some courts have set dates, while others will have to submit our documents and await their decision as to when we can come to court. Now, once the court has signed off on those documents, for adoption orders, it is the applicant's responsibility to collect those, and they will take a copy to the RGD, where they will apply for the new birth certificate for the adopted child.
And is there any cost associated with any of this process?
No, adoptions are free in Jamaica.
Is there anything else that, Jamaica needs to know about the process?
We need adopters, prospective adopters, to understand that it is important that they submit all the documents, and it is also important that they are truthful in the stories that they give pertaining to how a child is placed in their care. Because what we find is that sometimes when we approach birth parents, they are not aware that this child is being adopted. They know that somebody is caring for their child, but that was not the arrangement that they adopted for. Persons generally who wish to adopt should love a child, should really want to take care of a child, because it's a lifelong investment. Persons, they should have proper accommodation for the child. They should be able to financially can afford to take care of that child. And they should be willing to accept that child as theirs. And that is very important, because we see sometimes that persons adopt for many different reasons, and this can affect the relationship of that child for the rest of their lives.
How can people reach out to you to find out or to just inquire about the adoption process?
Okay, we have an email address, adoption@childprotection.gov.jm, and our straight line to the unit is 922-1751.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bugelo.
You're welcome.
Mosquitoes will breed in containers that hold water. Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, buckets, and tanks, or cover the water surface with cooking oil. Punch holes in all tins, plastic containers, and boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover old tires or fill with dirt. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs, and dispose of garbage by placing in plastic bags. Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding.
On today's episode of Finance Matters, Jamaica Stock Exchange Chairman Julian Mayer shares an exciting investment opportunity with the Jamaica and the region's first social IPO, Project Star.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange continues to blaze new trails with the launch of the first social IPO in the Caribbean. This move is considered a game changer and is set to make an impact. But what is a social IPO and how can you participate in this investing opportunity? Hi, I'm Shaquille Rochester Shorter and welcome to Finance Matters. Joining us today to tell us more about this social IPO is the chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Mr. Julian Mayer. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow the Ministry of Finance on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and now TikTok to see all the episodes and highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Mayer, for being on our program today.
My pleasure.
So what is a social IPO?
Well, social IPO, it's the first time it's ever been done, right?
Yes.
And as far as we can tell, it's the first time it's ever been done anywhere. But the Jamaica Stock Exchange chose a few years ago to establish Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, which is deliberately set up for non-for-profits. It's there to go and support in a very efficient way the fundraising needs of not-for-profit organizations that want to go and raise funds and want to do so in a transparent manner with all contributors. So the Social Stock Exchange would have supported this social IPO, which is kind of the first of its kind that Jamaicans know about an IPO, which is you can buy it through your broker, you can buy it online, you can do this, you can do that. So it uses all of those efficient mechanisms of raising funds. And then on the back side of it, it uses all the efficient mechanisms of sharing information with shareholders or with contributors, like in any other IPO or any other listed company. So that's what has made this IPO quite different. It's the first one that's been done for a social stock. It's been done for Project Star, which is a very ambitious project for social change. and has gone forward very well. It's been extended in November, but we're all excited about it, and I think the non-for-profit NGO kind of space is also excited to see how this new mechanism of raising funds and raising awareness, how it works for them.
Jamaica Stock Exchange, they're always in the business to create revenue, but what really influenced the Jamaica Stock Exchange to want to do a social IPO?
So Jamaica Stock Exchange is listed, right? So we always, yes, we're going to try and make money. But we make money by creating a platform.
Yes.
So we have many platforms. We have a public market platform, a junior market platform,
yes.
We have a debt platform. All of those platforms are areas which help people to connect to the investment opportunities that they're interested in.
Yes.
In this case, once we set up the social stock exchange, well, that's targeting a different type of investor, as it were. And this is somebody who wants to put their money towards change, rather than putting their money simply towards a financial return. Once it is that we recognized our mandate, of course, which is to try to develop, utilizing all the tools of the capital market, try to develop, the industries that need development and connecting those who need with those who can help and those who want to participate. Well, it became a natural when STAR Project came to us and said, we want to use this platform in a very different way than it has ever been used before. We want to use the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, but we want it to mirror what everybody knows the Jamaica Stock Exchange for, which is an efficient mechanism to raise lots of money and to give a lot of accountability to everybody who participates. So in this case, we were happy to support it. We've spent a lot of time trying to explain to people, when you invest in this one, you're really making a contribution, you're making a donation. You're not going to get a financial return.
Yes.
All social stock exchange entities don't provide a financial return to anybody who would have contributed. But what it does, it provides that funding mechanism for contribution of funds towards a social good.
So how can the Jamaica Stock Exchange help to regularize or to help persons to know the qualification that they need to be listed?
Yeah, so again, it's all there, it's all documented, but we know documents are one thing, right? Sometimes people need a little hand-holding.
Yes.
And we have a great team at the Social Stock Exchange that are charged with doing that hand-holding, right? To talk to the not-for-profits, to explain to them what the process looks like, what is it that they require. And a part of the work that the Stock Exchange does through the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange is to monitor. So they'll monitor that what was to have been done is being done. With a public company, reporting comes in every quarter. When you're with the Social Stock Exchange, every month that monitoring is happening. So there's a lot of support that you get from the Social Stock Exchange. Yes, there are requirements for being out there and being accountable, but reach out to the Stock Exchange. Reach out specifically to the Social Stock Exchange. That team is charged with supporting non-for-profits.
All right, so tell us before we go, 3 things that we can look forward to from the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
As far as 3 things to expect from the Stock Exchange, I mean, we continue to work towards ensuring that we protect the interests of all shareholders. So you'll see more of that, of course.
Sure.
You'll see more listings. We would have had a few recently, and we expect more to come. We are in an interesting time in our economic cycle, with monetary policy pushing up interest rates, and therefore some of the interest in the stock exchange would have abated a little bit. But we think we're at the end of that cycle, and therefore we're looking forward to renewed vibrancy in the market as we start to see the reverse of that. Expect to see that we continue to look to push our borders. We're the oldest stock exchange in the region, and what we've been able to achieve is something that we continue to provide guidance to others on how they can replicate it. Recently we've seen Dominican Republic have their first listing on their stock exchange last month. We see that there's vibrancy. Pardon me?
They're following now.
Well, I would love to tell you that was novel, but the truth is we're following as well, right? So we have big developed markets that we follow, and we chart slightly different courses from them at different times. But those markets that are at their embryonic stage can look to strength from the Jamaica Stock Exchange as to how they can continue to build and develop. And we look forward to continue to provide that support to our regional partners, including those in Guyana, those in Dominican Republic, those in Barbados. It's one ecosystem of capital markets throughout the Caribbean and Central America that kind of all needs to work together so as to have adequate scale to be able to support the global ambitions of our companies and ultimately of our economies.
Well, Mr. Murray, thank you for joining us on our program today.
Thank you, Shaquille. A pleasure being here.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Finance Matters.
Remember to follow us on social media at MOF Jamaica and tune in next week as we continue to demystify the economic and fiscal policies and initiatives implemented by the government to empower Jamaicans as we chart a path to Jamaica's economic prosperity.
Children are the future, and ensuring our future is healthy requires that children are always provided with nutritious foods to grow well and live long. Unhealthy diets high in sugar, salt, and fat consumed by children may make them obese and prone to non-communicable diseases later in life. Healthy foods and beverages not only help them learn better, but also protects them from non-communicable diseases such as some cancers, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases in their childhood and adult life. So, whether it's at home, in the lunch bag, or at school, let's make healthy foods and beverages for our children the only rule.
Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding. Mosquitoes will breed in any container that holds water.
Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, barrels, buckets, and tanks. If this cannot be done, pour cooking oil on the water surface. Punch holes in all tins, plastics, and beverage boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover all tires or fill with dirt to prevent water collection. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs. Use mosquito repellents to protect yourself from mosquito bites. Dispose of garbage properly by placing in plastic bags and securing properly to prevent water collection.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
We've come to the final stop of today's magazine, but the journey doesn't end here. Join us tomorrow, same time on this station for another informative edition of Jamaica Magazine. Until then, visit our website at jis.gov.jm. From the production team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.